Hello, my name is Elena Armstrong and I work at Lancaster University, and over the next few minutes I'm going to give you a demonstration of the Solar Park Impacts on Ecosystem Services Decision Support Tool, or the SPIES tool for short. Before I dive in, I want to highlight the funders, the Natural Environment Research Council, and the other people involved. Firstly, Piran White from the University of York, and the two postdocs who worked on the project, Richard Randall Boggis and Joanna Cruz. Moreover, producing the SPIES tool was a multi-sectorial effort, and we couldn't have achieved this without the numerous people who took time from their day jobs to help us. So what is the SPIES tool? In a nutshell, it's a decision support tool that enables solar park developers and operators to maximise ecosystem service provision from solar parks. For those of you not familiar with ecosystem services, they are things that the environment provide to society, and often for free. For example, pollination, carbon sequestration, food provision and flood mitigation. Many land use changes have detrimental impacts on ecosystem services. However, solar parks offer significant potential to enhance them. This is because the footprint of solar parks is very small relative to the overall land take, and they're secure, paid-for areas of land, the fate of which is known for the next 25 to 40 years. However, this significant potential isn't always capitalised on. So what we did was produce the SPIES tool. It is an evidence-based, in as much as every bit of evidence is from a peer-reviewed paper, decision support tool that informs the impact of different management actions on ecosystem services, or enables the management actions known to boost ecosystem services to be identified. Okay, that's enough background. Let's get on to using the tool. To find the SPIES tool login details, you need to go to our project website. That's www.lancaster.ac.uk/SPIES. Then if you go down to the download section, you'll find a PDF here which has the tool URL, password and username on it. Currently the URL is spies.simomics.com. The email address is user@spies.com. and the password is Lancaster with a capital L and York with a capital Y, no space between them. Then you get to the splash page of the tool. Down here it tells you a little bit about the tool and then warns you do need some ecological understanding to use it to its best. There are two entry points to the tool. The first is management actions and the second is ecosystem services. The Management Actions Gateway allows you to select specific management actions, and then it tells you what impact that has on ecosystem services. In contrast, if you go through the Ecosystem Service Gateway, it allows you to select ecosystem services, and then it tells you how specific management actions impact those ecosystem services. Okay, to begin with, we'll go through the Management Actions Gateway. What you'll see here is a list of management actions on the left-hand side, and you can click these and it gives you several options within each category. On the right-hand side, you've got a list of ecosystem services. Now these are the UK NEA classification, and before you select any management actions, they're all in the neutral column. Okay, so let's select some management actions. So what you can do, if you click on this, you can see you can select your current management strategy and then what your new strategy is going to be, and it will, over here, it will tell you the difference in ecosystem services. So perhaps in your current strategy, you are planting, maintaining hedgerows and shelter belts, and you can immediately see that all these ecosystem services move to degraded. Then in your new strategy, perhaps you're going to allow trees to grow in hedgerows. Also in your new strategy, perhaps you're going to plant up the solar park as a wildflower meadow, so we'll click that there. And perhaps in your old strategy you had beetle banks, but in your new strategy you're going to install bat boxes, beehives and bird boxes. So you can see that these ecosystem services here have all been degraded. These ones here have stayed neutral and these ones here have been enhanced. So that's a very high level summary of the impact of your change in management actions. To see the outcomes in more detail, we can now look at the current, proposed and comparison tabs. So firstly, if you go to the current tab, What you get here is the list of ecosystem services categorised into enhanced, neutral and degraded. Across the top here you've got significantly degraded, degraded, neutral, enhanced or significantly enhanced. Each of these numbers represents how many bits of evidence there was in the peer-reviewed literature that indicated that the ecosystem service was significantly degraded, degraded, neutral, enhanced or significantly enhanced. So for example, given the combination of current management actions, there were 4 bits of evidence that suggested pollination regulation was significantly enhanced. Now if you click on any of the numbers in the table, you come up with a list of references that the evidence came from. Then if you click on the references, you get a summary of that article. Sometimes it's just the abstract, which is in the public domain, but on other occasions we've taken information out of the main article and put it in that summary, therefore giving you access to information that's normally behind a paywall. The ability to see the underpinning evidence is a real strength of the SPIES tool. It essentially makes the generic tool customizable for specific site characteristics and management goals. For example, if you're looking to improve invertebrate diversity, you could look through the references for biodiversity and habitats and exclude those related to vegetation, birds and so forth. Alternatively, if there was a reason why that paper was not relevant to your site, for example, if it was undertaken on a species-rich grassland and your site is species-poor, you could remove it from the outcomes. The shading of the cells is simply to help with visual interpretation of the output. So red are negative impacts, green are positive impacts and grey are neutral. And the tone of the colour is proportional to the number of bits of evidence. You'll also notice the setting symbol to the right here. If you click on this, there are 2 options. The first is show strong weak, and what that does is breaks down the evidence into that we categorise as weak and that which we categorise as strong. We categorise evidence as weak if it was an unverified modelling study or if for some reason we questioned the applicability to solar parks. If you click the Show Total box, the total column appears. The total column is a score based on the number of pieces of evidence in the significantly degraded, degraded, neutral, enhanced or significantly enhanced categories that delineates if, overall, the ecosystem service was enhanced, degraded or neutral. The Proposed tab is formatted exactly the same as the Current tab, but is for your proposed management strategy. And finally, the Comparison tab combines the 2, with the number on the left representing the evidence counts in the current strategy and the one on the right showing the evidence counts in the proposed strategy. Again, you can click on the numbers and the list of references will come up, and you can click on any one of those and a summary of that article will come up. The last feature is the PDF button. Once you're happy with your selected management actions, you can press this to produce a PDF output of your selections. There are 2 options, one with and one without the reference list. We'll select the full one just now. This can take a couple of moments to compile. We produced this functionality as our project partners thought it could be useful as a technical appendix for planning applications or useful for O&M companies summarising the impacts of their site management. Okay, so you can see the PDF has been produced at the bottom here. If you open it up, what you get is a bit of a background about the SPIES project and the tool. Then there are 4 sections: a list of the current and proposed management actions, a visual summary of the evidence for both, a list of ecosystem services for which there was no evidence, and finally, if you go for the full report, a list of references from which the evidence was obtained. So here you can see our list of current and proposed management actions. Then here are the visual summaries. There is a graph for the current and the proposed strategy. The bars are colour-coded to represent the significantly degraded, degraded, neutral, enhanced or significantly enhanced evidence, and the numbers on the bars are the counts. Biodiversity and habitats is on a separate axis as our project partners viewed this as foundational and wanted to emphasise, and there was also much more evidence for biodiversity and habitats. Next there is a list of the ecosystem services for which there was no evidence, And finally, a list of all the evidence divided by ecosystem service, impact, and coded if they were present in the current or proposed management strategy or both. Finally, in the SPIES tool, there's this information tab. Essentially, this lets you display the information for any particular management action. You can either filter the management actions by category, so for example by grazing. Then you could select the grazing management action you're interested in, for example graze later in the year. This shows you that there is only evidence that grazing later in the year impacts maintaining habitats and biodiversity and pollination regulation. It's the same format as before, from significantly degraded through to significantly enhanced. You can click on the numbers and again you get the references, and if you click on these you get the summary of the articles, and also the summary and the references are given in this table below. You'll also notice there's a tick box here called Show Empty. If you select that, it shows you all the ecosystem services and the distribution of evidence. Alternatively, if you don't want to select through the categories, if you leave that as all, you can just go through the whole long list of ecosystem services, select any of the management actions, and again, all the evidence will be shown. So that's the management action entry point in a nutshell. The ecosystem service entry point is essentially the same, but you select ecosystem services and not management actions. Here you can see the ecosystem services are on the left-hand side as opposed to the management actions, and the management actions are in the table on the right-hand side. You can see that as we select ecosystem services, for example, climate regulation and habitats and biodiversity, the management actions move in the columns on the right-hand side, indicating if they degrade, enhance, or have a neutral impact on the selected ecosystem services. As for the management action entry point, the In-Depth tab gives a summary of the evidence, which is colour-coded and clickable as before. With the same settings functions and PDF outputs. The PDF has roughly the same format, introduction to the project and the SPIES tool above, the selected ecosystem services, a visual summary of the evidence, those management actions for which there was no evidence, and then a list of the references if you select the fully referenced PDF output. As for management actions, the information tab allows you to select individual ecosystem services, for example pollination regulation, and then gives you a summary of all the evidence for those and how management actions affect them. Again, you can click Show Empty to give the full list of management actions. The numbers are clickable as before, and the full list is given down at the bottom. So that's it. That's a summary of the SPIES tool. If you'd like further information, please do visit our website, which is www.lancaster.ac.uk/SPIES. On the website, you'll find an overview of the project, a PDF with the tool URL, username and password, an animation, the underpinning academic paper, this explainer video, and our contact details. Thanks very much for taking the time to learn about SPIES.